when the gentleman came up through Penzance with brandy and gold. You couldn't tell what you'd not seen, after all. Grandpapa used to say she was quick at picking up foreign speech, because of all that cant she'd heard in the peninsula. All the camp brats could swear in English, Spanish, and Portuguese, officers' daughters included. She'd learn how to manage in a ballroom, too, if this was the way it had to be. It was just that she was better suited to low-voiced conversation with his lordship in Grandpapa's bindery shop than doing the pretty in his ballroom, that was all. She'd cope with this awful velvet gown, so tight around her arms, and her hair all scorched and primped with the curling irons, and everyone staring, just for one night. Except that it isn't one night, though. It's forever. Clemency pushed that thought away. It wasn't forever anyway, so she should stop being blue-devilled about the whole thing. In 5 years she'd be 21, and she could go back to the bindery and live there just how she pleased, with her own little independence, small as it was, and never mind the terms of Papa's will. She hoped he was pleased with himself, wherever he was now, wrapped in clouds in a place of unimagined blessings or whatever. Ruining someone's life when you'd been dead 8 years yourself was quite the feat. Valentine hadn't looked at her all night. They'd waited in the marble-tiled vestibule at Boscobel Castle for Boff to bring the carriage around, Clemency shivering with a silver net shawl draped across her shoulders. "Pretty as a peach," he said then, pinching her chin. "You be careful now. We can't have all the young bucks taking advantage, can we?" That didn't seem very likely, not with her hair done up in these ridiculous pin curls, and her still unsure of the steps in anything more complicated than a country dance. As far as the law went, it was Valentine who was her guardian, not his mother, even though he seemed very young and handsome for that, not really like a person in authority. Clemency knew she'd beat Valentine at piquet if they played. He'd go in aggressive right from the start, and it would be easy to show him a weak game until suddenly she didn't. His lordship was another matter. He'd taught her every last refinement. Clemency couldn't see him now among all this silk and satin crowd. It could be he'd gone into one of the side rooms. She'd acquired a pretty sharp-tuned awareness of his presence at all times, and there was no sign of his elegant shoulder, nor his greying head. "Of course, young Captain Helford is quite the scandal," Mrs. Tregarthen was saying to Lady Boscobel in a hushed whisper, reeking of champagne and gum Arabic breath pastils. "He's been on leave for a week already, and he spent at least several days in London before coming down to Cornwall." Her eyes narrowed, reddened nostrils flaring. The mail coach leaves from the Stag every Monday and Thursday, so if he arrived yesterday, he could surely have taken last week's coach on the Thursday, but instead he stayed in town. Clemency took a sip of her champagne. "Oh, come now, Agnes. The young people must have their fun." Lady Boscobel spoke with her usual airy light-heartedness. Clemency had already learned that it disguised an iron will. Lady Boscobel's fair ringlets were glossy with pomade, held in place with a tortoise-shell comb, and this was her first time out since the end of her mourning. To Clemency's mind, she planned to make the most of it. "I'd be aghast if Valentine wished to remain at home with me all the time. He spends as much time in London as possible, although of course so many of his trading opportunities are there. But it's not just that, is it? I don't blame darling Kit for a little rabble-rousing in town. The company would be pretty thin on the ground at this time of year, but all the better to gamble in hells without having to be polite to us ancient old tabby cats at parties. And I would imagine that the usual social scene in London seems rather flat after serving with the Coldstream in Russia. Can you imagine the glamour of St. Petersburg? All that snow and magnificence." She smiled, showing her well-kept teeth. Clemency was sure she didn't think of herself as a tabby cat at all. One can't help noticing that Kit's not here, though, at a ball in his own home. Mrs. Tregarthen smiled, malicious. Her reverend husband's godliness hadn't rubbed off on her. That much was obvious. Yes, rather an insult to Lady...